Alright, so this is a review for your Unit 7 test, which is over similarity. Just as a reminder, this is textbook sections 8.1 through 8.6, including geometric mean, and then also section 11.1 on the golden ratio. So those are the things you should be studying for this evening. As far as the review sheet is concerned, let's go ahead and go over that together. In number 1, it wants to know if these triangles are similar. In number 1, you can conclude that this angle is congruent to this angle because of alternate interior, which means that these two are similar as well, or congruent actually. And also, you can actually conclude the vertical angles are also congruent. So therefore, it's really just by the angle-angle similarity postulate that these are similar, excuse me. In number 2, you might think, well, 1.5 to 8 and 2 to 6 and 2.5 to 10, those numbers are not in proportion. However, 2 to 8 is in proportion because that ratio is 1/4. 1.5 to 6 is the same as 1/4. And 2.5 to 10 is also 1/4. So therefore, since they all have the same ratio, these are in proportion by side, 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 and therefore the triangles are similar. In number 3, according to the side-splitting theorem, I know that the sides are split proportionally. However, notice that you don't have this side. You have the bases, and since you have the bases, there's nothing about how the bases are split proportionally. So therefore, for this triangle, you have to use the base and the side, and then for the big triangle, you also have to use the base and the entire side, which is 25 plus x. Okay, that whole quantity. So therefore, your proportion should look like 25 plus x, or x plus 25, over the base of 45, that's the big triangle, equals the side of the smaller right triangle to the base of the smaller right triangle. Then you can cross multiply. 30 times 25 plus x equals 45x. Distribute the 30, you get 750 plus 30x equals 45x. Subtract 30x from both sides, and you're left with 750 equals 15x. Divide both sides by 15, and x equals 50 feet. Okay, so again, if you don't have the side that's split proportionally, and it's a base, then you have to compare the entire side. All right, for number 4, you know that these triangles are similar because these angles are congruent by vertical angles, and therefore the triangles are similar. So since they're similar, you can set up a correspondence. Now, since this angle is congruent to this angle, you know that 8 and 12 are the corresponding sides. So you want to use 8 over 12 equals the 10 over x. Cross multiply. You get 8x equals 120. Divide both sides by 8, and x equals 15. Over on number 15, this is side-splitting theorem, okay? So part over part equals part over part, but notice that it's not comparing it to a part. It's comparing it to a whole. So you do part over whole equals part over whole. So 9 over whole, which is 12, equals the 12, which is the part of this side, over the whole, which is the x. So cross multiply, divide, and x equals 144 over 9 simplified is 48/3. Okay? Moving on. Alright, for numbers 6 through 9, you really just want to write based on your proportional equivalences that we talked about at the beginning of the unit. So how did I get 5a? I got that by cross multiplying. So if I cross multiply the other side, I'll get 6b. And number 7, D and C, you notice C and D were flipped, so therefore by the reciprocal property, I know that this is 4/9. Over here, E and 7, again, F and 11 correspond. And then same thing here, W and Y, X and Z correspond. All right, number 10, you know that the sign is 2 meters tall. You know that its shadow is 6.4 meters, and you know the shadow of the tree is 15.8 meters. So therefore, my proportion will be 2 over 6.4 equals x over 15.8. Cross multiply, you get 6.4x equals 31.6. Divide both sides by 6.4, and you get that x is equal to 4.9375. And that's meters. Okay. Number 11, your proof. So in this proof, we know that MN is parallel to OP. So since those two lines are parallel here and here, and this is a transversal, then I know that this angle is congruent to this angle by alternate interior angles. Also, this is a transversal to those two parallel lines, so this angle is congruent to this angle also by alternate interior. You could also say that these angles here are congruent by vertical angles. So you have a lot of options here. You actually don't need all three angles for this proof, but you can actually conclude that they're all congruent. So therefore, my proof for my statements and my reasons, I'm going to go ahead and pause this and complete the proof just to save time on the video. Alright, so here's your proof. Again, you can see that I've written that the two angles are congruent by the alternate interior angles. That would be the black and the red one. And then the two angles that are vertical are congruent, and then by angle-angle similarity. Again, you don't need all three of these angles, but since we can conclude them, we can go ahead and write them. Alright, so for number 12, they give you that the ratio of the surface areas is 81 to 256, and we want the ratio of the volumes. So, I don't have the linear surface area, or the linear ratio. However, I do have the area ratio. So how do I go from the area ratio to the linear ratio? And the answer is I have to take the square root. So if I take the square root of 81, I get 9. If I take the square root of 256, I get 16. Now, since I have the linear ratio, how do I find the volume ratio? Well, volume is cubed, so I have to go ahead and cube that ratio. 9 cubed is 729, and 15 cubed is, or 16 cubed, excuse me, is 4,096. So that would be the ratio of my volumes. For number 13, geometric mean, I take the square root and of the two numbers multiplied. And this one, it's kind of easy because 9 is already a perfect square. So square root of 9 is 3, square root of 36 is 6, so 3 times 6 is 18. Therefore, your geometric mean is 18. 14 isn't so easy because 12 and 24 are not perfect squares. So I do actually have to go ahead and multiply them and get 288. Now I have to simplify that. A perfect square factor of 288 is 144. 144 times 2 will give me 288, so therefore square root of 144 is 12, so 12 root 2. Alright, number 15. On number 15, I want to find the altitude. So therefore, if I want to find the altitude, I know I'm going to do part times part. So x equals the square root of 15 times 5. So x equals the square root of 75. To simplify 75, I know that 25 is a perfect square factor. So I'm going to now simplify the radical of root 25 times 3, and therefore the square root of 25 is 5. So 5 root 3 is the value of x. 16, a lot of people have had some issues with, because in this one I know a leg and I know two of the parts. However, my relationship is a leg is equal to part times whole. So 24 equals the square root of my part that's connected is 6. The entire side from here to here is 6 plus x. Again, the same thing from what we talked about on the front of the page on number 3. So 6 plus x. Now I have to solve. 24 equals the square root. Distribute the 6. I get 36 plus 6x. Square both sides. If I square both sides, I get 576 equals 36 plus 6x. Subtract 36. I'm left with 540 equals 6x. Divide both sides by 6, and x equals 90. All right, 17 through 19 is just cross-multiplying and solving the equation. So I have to multiply the 3 times the 2x minus 4. Again, I am going to have to distribute. 4 times x is 4x. Distribute, I'm left with 6x minus 12 equals 4x. Subtract 6x from both sides. I'm left with negative 12 equals negative 2x. Divide both sides by negative 2, and x equals 6. For number 18, 6 times 24 is 144. X times x is x squared. Take the square root of both sides, and x equals 12. And finally, number 19. This is probably one some of you are going to have problems with because you have to FOIL. However, foiling is not that bad. So x plus 2 times x plus 2 equals x plus 6 times x minus 1. First, x squared, outside 2x, inside 2x, 4. Same thing over here. X squared minus x plus 6x minus 6. Now if you notice there's an x squared on both sides, so I can go ahead and cross those out. It's nice that my x squareds cancel, therefore it's not a quadratic. Now I have to combine like terms. 2x plus 2x is 4x. Negative x plus 6x is 5x. And now I can subtract 4. And I'll get 4x equals 5x minus 10. Subtract 5x. Negative x equals negative 10. So therefore, if I divide both sides by negative 1, I'll get that x is just 10. All right, so this concludes your review on similarity. If you have any questions, please let me know.